Hello and welcome to Afri Dominion Show. My name is Freeman Singirankabo, and thank you so very much for tuning into our program today. Those of you joining us live, especially if you're joining us live from our social media platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and some of the private ones that we are broadcasting our signal to, welcome, and it's a huge privilege to be coming back again to your living room, to your office, to wherever it is you may be as you're following this program. And thank you so much, guys. And be sure to share our program with your friends, colleagues, and loved ones. That goes the same for those of you joining us live from the television and radio station as well. We are super excited to have you as well. Timing out for your lunch time, your dinner time, your break time, whatever it is that you were into, and you're actually tuning in right now to just join a little bit of time with us. We are really privileged, and we are very excited of the opportunity to come and serve you guys. And I want to give each and every one of you guys a huge welcome to our Afri Dominion show, and also a huge thanks to HMG Network and the affiliates for the continuous broadcast of our signal. To all across the globe, local and international station carrying our signal. We are super excited about that. And we also ask that we continue to push forward, because we know what it takes to push this conversation, to also distribute the programs and the resources that it requires to go behind this project. So we are really excited, and we are very humbled for the opportunity to come and serve you guys. And with that in mind, I also want to let each and every one of you guys following the programs, no matter where that you are. We are here speaking to you guys, and we are coming to you. We are speaking to you truthfully, boldly, and with no apologies. Why? Because what we're discussing here, the reason why we're in front of you is because it is something very, very deeply that we care about. Something very deep that we care about within our hearts. Something that we actually take the time out of our busy schedule to come and sit on and to come and say, hey, this issue, that issue there, this is something we need to sit on. We need to actually take some time, scrutinize, study, get your opinion, and then we get to take some action plans behind it. And it is with this spirit, guys, that I also am privileged and very excited and humble to let each and every one of you that the conversation we have here, the programs that we have here, it's led by the spirit of truth, love, and trust. And these are the benchmarks by which we expect, we hope, we would ask that each and every one of you use as guidelines or benchmarks to measure both the validity and the honesty, the truthfulness of everything we are sharing with you guys. Absolutely no sugarcoat, not going by, hey, who's doing what? No. Put it on a scale of good and right. Put it on a scale of what we ought to be doing. Put it on a scale of truth, love, and trust. And check everything that we do. Check everything that we say. Make sure that it's in alignment with that particular, or with those benchmarks that we have set for ourselves. And that goes the same with you too. We would hope that each and every one of you who join the conversation, you also come in the spirit of truth, love, and trust. Because if we all are on the same frequency, it doesn't matter what we're discussing, it doesn't matter what we are doing, whatever it is that we do, whatever it is that we put our minds upon is going to go accordingly. We don't even have to pray about it, because we will be on the same accord, on the same frequency, no matter what. And that gives me the pleasure to give each and every one of you an invitation to make sure that every time we having any discussion, make some time to jot down some notes, make some time to swing by to our website, to swing by to where you can get in touch with us and leave us a note, leave us a feedback. Why do we insist that? Why do we insist on feedbacks? We believe right now that everything that we are doing right at this moment, we're doing it because we care. We're doing it because we want a better tomorrow. We're doing it because we would hope, and we absolutely intend to change the situation around us for the better, not for the worse. But if you see something that is good, and you don't inform us that it's good and right so that we can continue on that route. If you see something that is wrong or not so good, and you don't let us know that, hey, listen, this isn't right, you all need to do whatever it is you have to do and make some changes accordingly. We are hoping that all of us can be participants. I cannot just want the very good for you if you don't have any initiative, if you don't have any stake in it. So you also have to want the same thing that I want in order for us to be on the same accord. Are we together? And with that in mind, know how you get in touch with us. Those of you who do not know how to get in touch with us, our primary way to get in touch with us is through our website, which is www.afridominion.com. www.afridominion.com. Make sure that you leave us a message. You can use our email, which is another easy way, less expensive way to get in touch with us. Our main email is info@afridominion.com. info@afridominion.com. We also do have telephone. We have SMS. We have social media handlers. We have various ways you can get in touch with us. In particular, please make sure that you do visit, or you make sure that you join our private groups. You'll find the information on the website as well. Come and join our private groups. This is the gateway to all the like minds. Everybody who's doing what you are thinking, what we are following, what we are pursuing right now, it's there. Every single person is there. So come through, meet all the like minds, get to discuss, get to connect, get to become one, so that everything that we do, all the ideas that we would like to implement, we can actually have an opportunity offline, off the air, to also discuss in detail with each and every one of you. So it's super, and it's very exciting, and we are so privileged for this opportunity, guys, to link up. So each and every one of us, we're gonna have to do our own role. Whatever you have to do on your end, you do it. Whatever I have to do on my end, I will do it, so that we can all serve our own families, our own community, even our nation. And with that in mind, guys, I want to again give you a huge welcome to Afri Dominion show. And on that same frequency, I'd like to also start by letting each and every one of you, especially those who aren't familiar with the idea or the show, I want to let you know what it is that we do here. So what is Afri Dominion, and what is Afri Dominion show? So Afri Dominion, it's an idea that inspires, that advocates, that encourages and help to take back the full dominion of Africa and African resources, one nation, one country at a time, by its sons, daughters, and African descendants, all in the interest of our brothers and sisters, our African brothers and sisters, our kings and queens and African descendants, first and foremost, and then the rest of the world afterwards. So the Afri Dominion show is a program that actually is a mouthpiece of that idea of the Afri Dominion, which means you can expect that everything that we do here must be inspiring. The entire program has to advocate on behalf of the voiceless brothers and sisters, on behalf of those of you who aren't able to advocate for yourselves. The entire program must encourage each and every one of you to become a better version of yourselves, to become who you truly are, to take back your kingdoms, to take back your true titles, your true identity as kings and queens of your homelands. And we also get to actually help you. We roll the sleeves up. We make sure that whatever it is we have to do, we also actually take action. And we're not just talking about any action, we're talking about measurable actions. We always say we work everything up in the open. It's in the public scale. You can measure everything we're doing to ensure that it's in alignment with what we have given as our goals, as our agenda, as our vision to follow. And anything that's out of sync, you have a responsibility, as much as I have a responsibility to call it out. So we are publicly here, publicly in the open. It's up to you now. It's up to you to either accept or actually say, no, not this, to everything we're doing. It's up to you to follow. It's up to you to actually help everything we're doing. While I'm on that note, please, everything we're doing here at Free Dominion, it is viewers and listeners sponsored. This show is 100% funded by us, the people. No special interests. Which means, in order for us to keep on pushing the conversation, to keep on pushing the broadcast and the programs all over the planet, we need resources. And it is in those lines that I also ask you that if you find the program helpful, please consider helping us financially, creatively, time-wise. Whatever help that you have, we are going to welcome it with open arms, because we're working for us, in the interest of our own family members, our own community, our own nation, first and foremost, before others. All right? And I want to make sure that it's clear. And also, I also want to make sure that you all understand that this program, it's not a discriminatory program. Because sometimes the language that we use, to some of you, you are afraid a little bit, and others may feel like, ooh, this sounds like it's some sort of discrimination. Let me ask you, your own nation, why is it that they insist that you have to become a citizen? Your own nation, when it's helping, it doesn't help the entire planet. It only helps its own citizen. So there is a silver lining. There is a demarcation line as to where your resources are going first and foremost. So your nation focuses on you before it focuses on your neighbors, before it focuses on the rest of the nations out there. Now, you may call it discrimination or discriminatory practices, but truthfully, it's looking after its own sons and daughters first and foremost. In your own house, your urge to take care of your family members first and foremost does not turn you into a discriminator person, because you're not helping your neighbors and so on. Are you seeing where I'm taking with this? So what we're doing here, we also are very mindful that our own people, our own home, our own houses are out of order. Not just out of order, but on fire. So everything that we're doing without our mighty, without our strength, we're actually trying to build us up first and foremost. Now that doesn't mean that if you are needy or if you call us up for a helping hand, that we're just going to ignore you. No, that's not what we're saying. But we are prioritizing our own family members, our own community, our own nations first and foremost, because the situation requires that we do that. So it's very, very, very important that you understand why we are very adamant to what we are saying and how we are saying it. All right? And with that in mind, I hope that I'm super clear. I hope that those of you who are wondering what we are doing and why we're doing and why we are so blunt about it, we have decided to be blunt about it. Like I said, we speak very truthfully to you, boldly and with no apologies, because this is our lives. And we only have one life to live. If I'm not responsible for my own life, knowingly that you are only responsible for yours and yours only and first and foremost, it is all going to be up to me. And I am the one who is going to be responsible for both the successes and the failure in my life, in my family's life, in my community, even our nation. This is why when we're speaking the way we speak, we are mindful. Our own nations are not going to be raised by other nations far away, even those nations neighboring us. We are first and foremost responsible for our own nations, our own people, our own communities, and so forth. So we gotta also act like it. All right? And with that in mind, guys, I get so excited because we've been given an opportunity to speak. We've been given an opportunity to voice our opinion. We've been given an opportunity to actually reconnect with our brothers and sisters all over the globe. get together and actually speak to one another on the issues that we care very deeply about. And we have so many issues, so many issues. So we've taken it upon ourselves to actually have 5 different themes, because we have 5 days that we get to broadcast the signal. And 5 different themes are as follow. On Mondays, we talk about eradication of refugees and stateless person conditions. And here we again focus on Africans. So Mondays is basically a day for African refugees and stateless people. We get to figure out, we get to study, we get to scrutinize why is it that the conditions that they are living in are still continuously following them. What can we do to get rid of that situation permanently? Who are the stakeholders? Why is it that they are either not up to speed as to what's going on? Or why is it that there aren't any action plans that are needed to be taken in order for the situation to be resolved, to be remediated? On Tuesdays, we get to talk about the Constitution, law, and policy review and implementations, again for African nations. These words sound so fancy, but they are nothing more than a set of instructions on different boundary levels. One, it's a set of instruction on a nation boundary levels. Another is a set of instruction on the local or region boundary levels. And the last one, it's a set of instruction on more like a house or like a small building here, boundary level. Meaning, these set of instructions or laws, they are set of instructions that we use, set of guidelines that we use to actually to function on a day-to-day basis. But depending on the scope or the boundaries, it is much easier to make changes on the guidelines that I'm using here at the studio, or the guidelines that you use at your own house to run your house, than it is going to be easy to make changes to the city guidelines. You can quickly switch things in your own house, but you cannot just quickly switch things in the city. Likewise, you cannot just switch set of instructions, laws on your nation the same way you do it in your own house or in the city. It requires a whole lot more consent. It requires more study, more thorough understanding that what scarcity become a change in people's lives isn't going to be disruptive. But they all share one thing. These are all set of instructions and guidelines that we use as standards for our lives every single day. So on Wednesdays, we get to talk about our testimony, history telling, and writing. I love Wednesdays because it's one of those days that we actually get to speak from our hearts. No rehearsal necessary, no need to rehearse, nothing. You can actually speak what you are living. You can share what you are living, and you can write about it. And we can have the opportunity to preserve that for millennia to come. Africa and African people have such a rich history that's been purposely buried. Buried by whom? Many stakeholders, including region and faraway nations, institutions and organizations, even individual people who are fighting day to day to ensure that Africa and African people remain slaves permanently. It is impossible, guys, to live this life without knowing your past history, without knowing where you came from, where you are, and where you're going. And that is one of the first things that was taken away from a lot of the African people, even the continent. Now, that is not to say that the continent doesn't have a history. We do have a history. But that history, it's been purposely buried. And guess what we're doing? We are bringing it back. We are bringing it back, and we make no apologies about it. We absolutely are doing it because we know it's imperative that we do it. Hence, we're calling each and every one of you guys out to come and give us a hand. This is a community project. It's not an individual project. This is for the benefit of our nation and the continent, not just one person, one family, or just one community. So it's important and it's very imperative that all of us work together for these endeavors. And Thursdays, we get to talk about the spirit of dominion. What is dominion, guys? When you dominate, you have a full knowledge, a full information, a full set of instruction, a full comprehension of something that you are going to manage. Dominating Africa, an African affair. It's governing Africa in its African affairs. Ruling Africa in African affairs. Nurturing African affairs. If I can be blunt, we're talking about resources. Being able to be a good steward, a good manager of your resources on a country level, on a nation level, on region, village, family, and then you personally. If you are not a good steward, your resources are going to run away from you. That's just the natural law. It works with you, it works with me, it works in any nation, any country, anywhere around the planet. Every resource runs towards someone who's a good steward, towards someone who's a good manager. And all of us, we have been pre-created as managers of resources. We have been given the mandate to be the kings and the queens of our resources, of our environment. But most of you have been converted into slaves of the same environment. It's a choice to be a king and a slave. You literally have been given the amazing gift of choice and free will. Today you can choose, you can will to be a free and thoughtful king and a queen. And you can will to be a slave. Either way, it's up to you. They both have both the benefits and the consequences. And so choose you wisely which one you get to choose or to pick. On Fridays, we get to talk about the current events and its impact towards Africa and African people. This is also another one of the days that I love because we get an opportunity to actually talk to all of you. All over Africa, even across the globe. We get to find out, hey, what actually makes you wake up every single day? What matters in your life? What matters in your family life? What matters in your community? What are the challenges and the opportunities that you have in your communities that you can share with the rest of the brothers and sisters, and also extend a helping hand, extend an invitation to come in and just lend you a hand. I cannot love you more than you love yourselves. You surely cannot love me more than I love me. So if I don't have the notion of who I am, and if I have never been taught to love me, how can you love me if I don't know how to love myself? So all of that, you've got to be able to know it and to actually take part in it for the benefit of all of us collectively. And with that in mind, guys, today is Tuesday. So it's none other than the Constitution, Law, and Policy Review and Implementations of our African nations. So today, actually, the focus is going to be your nation's Constitution, Law, local laws and policies, right or just good for your citizens. Understand me well. Let me repeat it. Is your nation's constitution, local laws and policies, right or just good for you as citizens? And we are explicit in asking this question. And I'll get to it, and I'll get to explain myself why we're posing the question the way we're doing it. Second follow-up question, does Africa or your nation have to copy and paste foreign laws and impose them on you, the people, without having studied both the benefits and consequences of those laws? Recently, we have seen copy and paste when it came to this pandemic. We've seen laws and regulation being implemented from the United States, from the United Kingdoms, from France, from Canada, from Germany, from China. And guess what? We got to see African nations grabbing what's in New York and pasting it in Kigali, grabbing it what's in London and paste it in Accra. Literally, knowing that these are two different environments. How is it that a smart person, a thoughtful leader, copies and pastes another nation's laws and policies, and then you just dump it onto your citizens? No studies as to the benefits and consequences of the same implementations. And I was like, my God, seriously, even a kid can do the job of the so-called intelligent individual leaders that we have today. If you're all about copy and paste, why can't you use a donkey to do the same, or just get an automated machine to do that? Because that machine would actually work 24/7 and it needs no rest. It's just copy and paste. But when it comes to us as human beings, and you're literally copying and paste, it's a disgrace. It is absolutely a disgrace when you are a thoughtful leader. What's happening in the United States, it's not the same thing that's happening in Burundi. It's not the same thing that's happening in Kenya. It's not the same thing that's happening in Ethiopia. It certainly isn't the same thing that's happening down in Zimbabwe, down in Sierra Leone, down in Nigeria. No, it's not. So how dare do you just copy and paste without even studying the relationships of the two nations, the culture, the local environments, whatever that's causing the changes, whether it's the same. There are a lot of moving pieces, and you just cannot take copy and paste about it. And then we will take the case of Rwanda. I use Rwanda all the time because that's my homeland. I'm more knowledgeable about Rwanda, and I can easily pick some very, very, very specific examples. And lastly, I get to ask you, what is your role in all of that? I always end up with this particular question because I want to make sure that what we're talking about, what we're discussing here, isn't something just in the sky. We're not here to just sit down and warm our seats here. We're not here to just eat our airtime. It's money. It's resource. So I'd rather use it for the benefit of those of you who find it helpful, and hopefully we can actually implement it in our lives. So let's jump right in, guys. Is your nation's constitution, local laws, and policies right or just good for you? Some of you already may be wondering, what are you talking about? What's the difference between right and good? There's a huge, huge difference between right and good. And let me pull it out there. In today's world, the systems that are in charge of most of you are busy making sure that you do all the good things at the expense of the right things. Don't worry if you're not understanding what I'm saying right now. You'll get up to it some years ahead of you. Let me make sure that I repeat myself because it's crucial, especially that you young people get to listen to this. You are too smart for the same system that's managing you, for the same system that's leading you, to force you to do something that is wrong. No. They already know you know something that is wrong or bad. But they will simply ensure that you get busy doing something that is good at the expense of something that is right. Let me try to explain to you in a way that you may understand it. So here in the United States, we have something they call highways. You Africans, it's very few nations that have highways. Highways are nothing more than just these big roads that have like 2, 3, 4 lanes, one way. Meaning it's just a regular road that just has multiple lanes. So these highways have been constructed such that if you have 4 or 5 lanes and everybody's going the same directions, in order for you to get out of those highways, you have to have an exit or somewhere you get off. Now, every single highway that's constructed, it is constructed with a very good exit road. Every exit is good. Otherwise, they wouldn't have spent money putting an exit out there. Listen to me carefully, because I'm very intentional with the words I'm using right now. Every highway has all good exit. In fact, it's necessary that they have good exits there. There's no such thing as a bad exit on a highway. Every single highway has good exit. I would fire you if you put a bad exit on a highway. Why waste our money? Why not use it for something else? So there's not one single exit on a highway that's bad. Up front, just be on the same frequency with me. Now, not every good exit on a highway is right for you, nor is it right for me. Understand me again. Not every good exit on a highway it's right for you nor me. Not every single one of them is right for me. You may wonder, okay, what are you talking about, or how do you differentiate that? Let me give you a bit more practical example. So here in Washington D.C. we have a beltway. This is another highway that's literally like a belt. It circles the Washington D.C. area. It circles the Capitol, but a bit more wider. So when you're on this highway, it's literally like a circle. So suppose that you live somewhere in the north, and I live somewhere in the east. So, and then you want me to visit you. So we have something like what? 40 plus exit on the highway. And those of you who don't know which highway I'm referring to, it's a 495 highway. It has about 40 something exits. Now imagine if I live on exit 1 and you live on exit 40. Let's say exit 20 for the sake of making sure that we are apart. Because if I live on exit 1 and you are on exit 40 and the entire highway has exit 43, you're pretty close to me. So I want to make sure that you're super far away from where I am. So I live on exit 1, you live on exit 20. If you give me directions to come and visit you, and you say, Freeman, I would love to come and visit, I would love you to come and visit me. Come on Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. Let's hang out with family, friends, and just have a great time. And you mention, hey, I live on 777 First Street in Silver Spring somewhere. Make sure that you use exit 29 for Collinsville. So here I come. I'm on exit 1. I'm gonna come and drive on on the highway with the intention of coming and visit you and following your directions. Now here I am and I'm driving, and all of a sudden I arrived on exit 20, and I'm like, let me take this exit. Remember, you told me to use exit 29. That's the closest exit to you, to your house, wherever it is that you live. But I, in my own free will, I chose exit 20 to be the exit that I'm going to use as I step out. So the highway isn't going to mind. There's exit 20, beautifully done, beautifully constructed, and I can just use it. So here I am, I come on exit 20, I exit. And as soon as I exit, I start wandering around that whole neighborhood. Remember, you have given me an explicit time. You have given me an explicit exit to use, but I chose not to listen or to follow your instructions. And guess what? While exit 20, it's a good exit, it is not a right exit for me to come and visit you. Because not only isn't going to get me there faster enough, and it might not even get me there, because I might have to go through so many other things to get to you, to use maybe local streets with traffic lights, with embouteillage, with what is it? When you have trash, the word is leaving me. Embouteillage en français. So when you're having so much traffic on the highway, especially the local streets, and you can't go nowhere, that means you're gonna waste more time, and there's a good chances that the party, that event that you have invited me to come over at 3 p.m., I may not get there at the time that you wanted me to get there. Consequently, your friends, your colleagues, everybody might actually be done with the party, leave, and I'm still wandering on exit 20, trying to come to you. Now, if I'm smart, once I realize that I took a wrong exit, I'm going to jump right back on that beltway. I'm going to jump right back on that highway and come and look for exit 29. Now, assuming that I'm that smart. Now, if I try to go ahead and just go figure, I'm going to waste more time than the time you may have for me. And by the time I arrive to you, you could be pissed off, you could be mad, and you might just be unhappy because I have literally affected your plans. So why am I so stuck on this thing here? What does it have to do with constitution, laws, and policies in your nation? I look at them literally. I look at these laws as various exits. If your nation comes to the United States and they look how beautifully this Constitution is built, how local laws are, and you're like, I like what they've got. Let me copy and paste it in my own nation. And I'll give you an example. I've got one. Remember, I told you I have a guinea pig here that I use. So you come in and you copy and paste and you take it at home. While the laws, while the Constitution may be good for the United States citizens, and why it might also be right for them, it may not be right for your own people. Especially if you have no knowledge as to how they arrive there. So, we have so many geniuses who have been visiting the West, the East, the North, and the South. And they go and they look at these nice policies, nice local laws, nice constitutions, and they go scrap their own laws and they implement new stuff, new laws. And the people have zero clue as to what it is that they are implementing. Now tell me, who is going to benefit to these constitutions, to these laws and these policies being implemented without the knowledge of the locals? Who is going to benefit? It's the same as you come in bringing a highway in your own country, you build a thing, and you just got all kinds of exit, but there are no houses around those exits. It's a bunch of bush. What is the point of having an exit that goes to a jungle, to a bush, instead of going to a city, instead of going to a neighborhood? What's the point of building that highway? if it leads you to nowhere? What is the point, guys? Let me be a bit practical so that I'm not just speculating. I'm not just talking outside of, something that is not tangible. So in the United States, we have we have a leadership that has both, it's a republic laid by a constitution. We the people. You've got the Senate, you've got the House, you got the executive branch, the legislature branch, and the judicial branch. That sounds so beautiful. An African nation, Rwanda comes in, and they meet U.S. citizens, and they're like, by the way, guys, we have something we want you to copy. It works beautifully here. So we believe you can use this also to strengthen your own people. They go up in London. They're like, hey, don't worry, guys. We also have a few things we can give you as an added value. So we went and we copied and pasted the United States leadership style, legislature, literally copy and paste. We copied and pasted the entire legislature and we brought it at home. We went and copied and pasted the executive when we brought it at home. We just made a few adjustments according to the way we saw fit. Went and grabbed the judicial branch, copied and pasted. Now, these people have taken zero chance to study the United States. Why they arrived the way they arrived? Why is it that they've selected the system that's leading the United States today? They didn't start from there. They went to UK. They also grabbed a few things from the legislature from there. And they brought it in and they mixed it with the system that there is there today. They brought some Commonwealth laws and regulation. They added it. They just made a new blend. Minding you that very few Rwandese people, and when I say this, I've done the research, guys. I am not just playing out, putting it out there like that. Very few Rwandese people, very few, have little notion to none of how this system works. Very few have a full understanding, but the rest of them, they don't know and they don't even care. So what good is it to bring a highway to the people when the people aren't going to use it, aren't going to benefit from it? What good is adding some exit when there are no houses, there are no places, there are no cities for those exits to be there for? Who are you impressing bringing in a highway to nowhere when it's just not beneficial to the people? Who has done the study of both the benefit and the consequences of these implementations? Who has communicated to the citizens that, hey, this is a new system that we have. We believe it's very beneficial, and here are the studies. But because we know we work for you, we would love for you to take some time, think over the studies we have presented to you, and see if this is right for you now, good for you. We have a good system in Rwanda. We have a beautiful, good system. But is it right for the Rwandese people? Is it right for the local, average person? If we have not taken the time to study and to answer ourselves as to if the system is good versus right, if these laws are good versus right, if these policies are good versus right, in whose interest are we actually advocating for? Now, let me also go right back towards Africa. Africa has been enjoying so many coups d'etat. And I'm saying this sarcastically, right away, because there's nothing beautiful about a coup d'etat. But it seems like it's a norm for Africa. And these coups d'etats are actually instigated oftentimes by these outsiders, where you copy and paste these constitutions, these laws and policies. So, if it's illegal to have a coup d'etat in the United States, if it's illegal to have a coup d'etat in the United Kingdom, if it's illegal to have a coup d'etat in France, why is it that these big boys are advocating for coup d'etats in your own countries? Why is it that they have been literally sanctioning coup d'etat in your own nations? So how will you deal with someone implementing a highway to nowhere and they're actually giving you free money to do that? But that free money isn't free because it is in exchange to something else that has a huge benefit to them but not to you. Young people, please take some time and study. Take some time and study. And don't just study every garbage that comes your way. Take some time and study the things that matters the most to you, that matters the most to your families, to your community, and to your nations. So here we are now. We have these beautiful constitutions. We have these beautiful laws, local laws and policies. And now we are struggling to get them to work for us. Why? Because an average person has no idea what the hell you're saying. They have no idea the benefits out of this beautiful thing that you just put out there, out of this good thing that you have put out there. And even you have no idea how to explain to them that that particular system, these laws, these policies are actually beneficial to them, because you yourself have no idea how they are beneficial. And you claim to be an advocate to these people. And you claim to be a representative of these citizens. And you claim to be the chief citizen of your nation. I mean, treason, it's a good word for most of you living a life like that today. However, though, I cannot blame it on the foreigners. Enough is enough, guys. There's never been an instance where a foreign nation came to your country just like that and took over. Those days are gone. They're not that blunt anymore. Maybe with the exception of, maybe a few nations I can see, like Iraq, when they went in and they just were like, you gotta go. In Libya. For the rest of the nation, or even Haitian, Haiti, they have bluntly have gone in and removed a few, the leadership. So, but for the rest of the African nations, they are a little bit more subtle in the way they make changes. They come in and they check out the weakest link, and then through the weakest link, they come to you. That is also something that's called divide and conquer. If I'm greedy, and if I have a mind of my own, and everything that I'm doing, I want to do it for me, myself, and I. And another opportunistic country comes along. Another government comes along through different programs like spying programs. They study your people. They study what you're doing. They study the opportunities in your own homeland, and they study also the weakness there. So those weaknesses could be exploited, so that those opportunities could also be exploited however they can be exploited. As they study, they find you, Mr. Wick or Mrs. Wink. They realize, hey, Mr. Winky can be used to actually secure our interest. This is one of the most common words that you are going to hear in these nations. Our interest in this region is such and such and such. We are here because of our interest. My government, I represent the interest of my government, and we are willing to bring military forces. We are willing to come and shed our blood towards the interests that we are seeking after. Mind you, they are beyond the borders of their homeland. They have arrived to your borders and inside of your borders, and they are adamantly and very boldly about pursuing their interest within your own boundaries. They're no longer where they can freely go in and out. They are in your own nation. And there they're telling you, our interest in your nation is this and this and this. And we are willing to secure that. We are willing to pursue that to the extent that we will get what we want. So the world that we have today, guys, is like that. I gave you an example recently. We have a very interesting agreement between the United States and Rwanda. This agreement, I mean, we have plenty of them, but one in particular that just shocked the heck out of me. It is the status force of agreement between the United States and Rwanda. It was signed on May 28th, 2020 by the then United States Ambassador Peter Freeman, I do believe. He's no longer an ambassador to the of the United States to Rwanda, but he literally signed the deal. I mean, I gave him hats because the deal that he signed, it's like one of those, my interest in this region is that. He absolutely lived up to that. On the other hand, I looked at the interests of Rwanda in those agreements. I literally found zero. And guess what? Rwanda also signed it. And you know who signed it? This guy they call Vincent Biruta. He's like the foreign affairs minister. Why am I taking the time to mention that? When you find the weakest link in your own nation, you use the weakest link to pursue your nation's interest to that nation. The United States has found the weakest link in Rwanda to pursue its interest in Rwanda and in the region. Why does that matter, you may ask? So, right now, Rwanda cannot just dare come in and then snoop around in the United States and say, okay, I'm going to go after that interest because it's good for my people. Here in the United States, they will say, heck to the no, it's not happening. However, the United States can go in Rwanda and seek out its own interest anytime, anywhere, day and night, rain or sunshine. I mean, with absolutely no restrictions whatsoever. You think I'm lying? Go to the internet. Better go to the State Department website. Pull out the status force agreement between the United States and Rwanda and you read it. And after you read it, ask yourself a question. Would the United States sign this agreement if everywhere there is the name United States, you replace it with the name Rwanda? Would the United States sign it? If I even say if any one of you would say yes, they would sign it, you come over. I would literally give you whatever it is you want. Even if I don't have it, I'm at work for life just to pay you back. But once I reviewed it, it was an explicit heck no. Oftentimes they say hell no. It's like they're telling you that even in my dreams, this will not go. So then why is it that our own people are busy setting up constitutions that are similar to this highway to nowhere? Beautiful constitutions for other nations, but they are copying and pasting in your own nations. They're bringing in local laws that work beautifully in other nations, and they're bringing in and they actually make them to be the standard in your nations, and your people have no notion as to what these laws are doing. Same with the policies. Right now you have heard when they say Rwanda is the new Singapore. What does that even mean? It's the new Singapore. In other words, they've copied Singapore and they literally shoved it to the throat of the people in Rwanda. When the environments are different, the people are different, the culture are different. There's so many moving pieces that are not alike and will never be alike. However, our smart representatives, they've gone there, copied and pasted on my behalf and my brothers and sisters' behalves in Rwanda. And the rest of the people, they just clapped because they neither cared nor bothered to know what it is, and how they benefit from it. Now, the consequences, on the other hand, are detrimental, are so fatal. Because these nations, they've taken the time, like the United States, it's taken 240 plus years to refine its constitutions. I say constitutions because they have the same one constitution has been refined a couple times, so it's pretty much constitutions. But for the lack of better word, let me just keep it singular. They've been refining the local laws, and so are the policies. They're constantly changing policies, constantly, based on who's the boss. They're also attempting to make changes to the local laws based on who's the local leader. But they do not touch the Constitution. Rarely they touch the Constitution of the United States. Why is it? But every 5 to 10 years, they encourage African nations to review their own constitutions. They even have a hand in it. And none of you has taken the time to wonder why is it that this is happening. But now today we are asking about it, but we are also seeking and studying and researching the behind the scene. Why? What's going on? Like I say, if I'm bringing something that isn't yours for your own benefit, but you have no knowledge as to how it works, and you haven't been even taught, communicated, or even given the courtesy to inform you of what's there. Am I actually working for you, or I'm working against you? Am I seeking your very best interest, or the interest of the person or of the nation by which I'm extending its local laws and policies to my own homeland? I submit to you guys today that we have a lot of leaders that you believe are your own leaders, but these leaders have been actually have been put in seats by these various external governments. Study your own people. Study your own leaders, the so-called representatives. Study every single one of the policies, local laws, even the Constitution that was put in place while they were in office. Scrutinize it all and see in whose interest are they working for. Don't be shocked if you realize that it's not your interest. because you also are to blame. Gone are the days where you can just take an outsider, take a foreign government, a foreign nation, and be like, "Oh, you are enslaving us." We say that, which is true, but we have a huge responsibility as to how they enslave us. If we have a weakest link in our own government, if we have a weakest link in our leadership, and we have not done anything to address that weakest link, they come in and they exploit that weakest link. Can you fault them? Can you really fault them for figuring out that we have a weakest link? And not only that, they legitimately exploited the weakest link and put it in agreements. They wrote agreement to make sure that they're not going to tell you, "Hey, listen, we did everything accordingly. We even put it in a piece of paper. You didn't say anything about it, so why should we bother? Or why should we have bothered?" Normally, when you look at the moral compass, they should have cared. But is there such thing as moral compass today in the nations we have around the planet Earth? Very few. So what am I saying? So I don't beat around the bushes. We have a responsibility to ditch not only the Constitution, the local laws, and policies if they do not work first and foremost on behalf of you and I, our own people primarily, before they work for the outsiders. We have an obligation to literally squash it. We have an obligation to stand up our own local laws, policies, and the constitutions that work on our own behalf and the behalfs of our nations. Which means, don't just go to France and copy and paste and bring it to your own nation. Don't come here in the United States and copy and paste and bring it to your nation. It is not only irresponsible, but I believe that it should be a crime, punishable by taking you to jail for like 30 years for doing something like that. Have you ever seen a United States citizen go into France and copy and paste the system there and bring it to the United States? Actually, no. That one is too easy. Have you ever seen a United States citizen go into Rwanda, copies and paste the system that we got going on and bring it to the United States and make it work there? Have you ever seen a French doing that? Have you ever seen a Chinese doing that? Have you ever seen someone from the Queensland doing that, aka United Kingdoms? I submit to you that it's never happened before, and it's not by accident. Why should they come and copy and paste what you got when you are already considered inferior, when you are already considered in advance folks, unintelligent people? Why should they copy and paste? But they come in and they impose what they got in their own sleeves, and they shove it in your throat and make sure that you follow that, especially because you have been going there begging, "Help me, help me, help me, help me." They say, "Okay, before we help you, allow us to extend what we have here so we can extend it to you as well. If you're willing to dance, we'll let you have it, but we will control how it works because that's how it works in this land here." So legitimately, the United States leaves the United States boundaries. They come to Rwanda as an extension. Just like anybody who can leave the United States and they go into any one of the territory of the territories of the United States. Territories like Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is not Puerto Rico. It's not a country. It's not considered a country or a state like you see Maryland or Virginia or Delaware or any one of these states in the United States. However, it's a territory of the United States. What goes in the United States here, it's extended to the Puerto Ricans. Meaning you do not need a passport to leave the United States and go to Puerto Rico because it's an extension of the United States, even though they do not have the same rights. They do not have the same leadership style as we have here on the mainland. There's some differences. And those differences matter when it comes to who you are serving and whose interest you're seeking out for. Now, why am I saying that? I am saying that because some of those of you are young people, you've never taken the time to realize that we are going to be asked and we are going to be responsible for your nation's constitution, for your nation's local laws and policies. I keep on telling you, please take some time and read. Take some time and read. Take some time and read. Especially get to read why is it that your nation is being governed the same way it's being governed there. Why is it that you can barely breathe in your own nation and you have the ability to call yourself or to make changes in your own nation as you claim? You are after all an independent nation whose constitution, whose local laws and policies is 100% governed by you, the people. Yet you are struggling. You are struggling to have a garden in your backyard because the policies, the local laws do not permit you to have a garden in your own backyard. I'm talking about Rwanda right now in 2022. Rwandan government dictates to you what you can actually farm in your own backyard, in your own land. Now you tell me, is that freedom? Is that freedom? Since when do you see the United States government coming in my backyard and dictates to me what I put in my backyard? Since when do you see the United States come in and dictate to you what you put in your farmland? Now, there are instances where they say this region is considered agricultural region. And based on our agricultural policies, anyone who wants to do business in this land, they will follow the guidelines by the Ministry of Agriculture. We have that here. So you may find, for example, like in the neighborhood that I live in, you may see people having corn for miles and miles and miles away. You don't see no beans, you don't see no potatoes, because if that region has been demarcated as agriculture, they may have a policy that everybody in this region, we just want corn. And we're not even asking all kinds of corn. There is a specific corn that they actually are advocating to have. And then you go on and you see another region, it also has something as similar to that. Rwanda is as big as this little dot on my finger. The people have no notion as to cultivating same thing in the whole nation, especially when we are still begging. If my living standards have not allowed me to go to the store to buy something that was exported from the United States, and I used to farm my vegetables in my backyard, few beans, few potatoes in my backyard, and now the government says from today on, I tell you what to put in your backyards. Whose interest is the government looking after? Is it yours, the citizens, or the other government that they have extended the constitution, the local laws and policies upon you? Guys, go study that. Because not just Rwanda, many African nations are following this model today. You are living, literally, you are living as an extension of a lot of these very specific nations around the globe. You are living as an extension. I can equate it to Puerto Rico. Meaning, you're not a state. You're not in a United States, acknowledged state, and you're not even a nation, an independent nation. You are some way a hybrid in between. Because the policies, the local laws, even the Constitution that you have yourselves enacted, meaning the so-called representatives, have been looking at the interests of these other nations. And then you, the people, you are nowhere to be found in those agreements, in those laws, in those local policies. And the joke becomes on you and on your corner. Because you go out and you say you are a free people, independent state, yet you have zero representation in your own government. The entire representation is a representation of foreign nations, foreign governments. Why? Because now you've got the so-called leaders and representatives who are extension agents of these foreign nations. So what are you going to do about that, young people? How will you even know that that's what it is right now when you have never bothered to learn, to study, to see the dynamics of what's happening in your own nations? You've never studied the dynamics of what's happening in the whatever nations that's being extended to your nation. Whose joke is it anyway? And I claim today that we are responsible for everything that's broken in our own land, in our own nation, in our own leadership. And since we are responsible, you gotta roll the sleeves, don't beat around the bushes, pinpoint where the problem is, and start from there and rectify it. Go to the source of the problem. Do not address the symptoms of the problem. Addressing the symptoms of the problem, it's more expensive than addressing the root cause. If you address the root cause once and for all, that whole situation will be resolved. If you address the symptom, you are going to have the same problem for life. That's bad business and that's bad representation on behalf of the people who has given you the privilege to be the solution seeker, the solution provider for the situation they have at hand. And so, I am asking you to become your true representatives. Seek out the good people in your own families, in your own communities, in your nations, to not only implement, to not only actually design the Constitution, design the local laws, design the policies that has the very best interest in you, the people, first and foremost, before it addresses any external interest of any nation. That is going to require that you have not only the integrity, but you have your nation at heart. You have your people at heart. Nothing wrong with having friendships with other nations. But you yourself and you has got to come first. Because that's how it is here, for example, in the United States. That's how it is in France. That's how it is in Canada and the rest of these so-called developed nations. They look after themselves first before they look after you. It's about time you also get to learn how to look after yourselves. It's not a crime, guys, and it's not a discrimination. It's the right thing to do for your nations. And now they got a new scheme going on where they bring in something they're calling the world order, the one world government. This is something that's been in the making since what, 70s? Yeah. There's a book that I read. There's a book of about 1,000 pages that was being sent to every embassy in the United States. Every single embassy. Even the Rwandan embassy received that book. That book was written by the then Minister of Foreign Affairs, or here in the United States they are called the Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger. I believe he's the one who was the author. And God, if you do not know that particular book, which is like really the one word government. Guys, go read it. You can imagine they only have about less than probably 500 prints of what the New World Order government is going to look like. This is something that was conceived, that was actually wrote in the 70s. It may have been preconceived in the 60s, the 50s, who knows. But imagine if the people in these nations have been looking what they want 50 years. They make sure they pull it in plans. And you are not on the table of discussion when these ideas are being discussed. Will you dare say that you have a stake in those plans? Will you dare and say that you have representations in those stakes, in those plans? Such is what's happening today. There are a lot of initiatives taking place in many African nations. These initiatives are being presented to you right now because it is exactly when they are supposed to be presented to you. It could be in the form of a constitution, it could be in the form of local laws, and it could be in the form of local policies. Because they are so timely. They are so timely in the greater schemes of what's already been planned 50, 60, 70 years ago. And you are just right on time for you to execute your little small piece for the whole big machinery to continue. And my question to you becomes, in whose interest are you going to look after first and foremost? Will you look after the interest of the United States when you are not a United States citizen, and you're not even getting paid to look after the interest of the United States? Will you be looking after the interest of the United Kingdom if you're not a United Kingdom citizens, or if you're not working for the United Kingdoms? Will you be looking for the interest of France when you're not a French citizen, when you're not even an attaché, when you're not working on behalf of the United States, of France? If Germany brings its own interest, will you also represent its interest when you're not a German, when you're not being paid to do that in your nation? Guys, these are the questions we are facing today in 2022. These are the questions that are driving the decision making of a lot of your so-called local leaders. Some of them are making decisions that they have no idea how they arrived on their lap. I repeat, guys, what's happening right now, it is so complex, but not impossible to understand. It is so fast to catch, but not impossible to slow down. It is so easily destructible because it is incompatible with your ways of life. So what are you going to do? Also, let me put it out here. Let me be clear saying that when we speak like this, and any one of these nations listen to it, they might be like, okay, these kids are really fighting against our own interest. So let's do something we can really let's figure out something we can do. Guys, I have absolutely no beef with any nation seeking after its own interest. I have no objection whatsoever. I do, however, have an objection when you seek not your own interest at the expense of another nation on an equal scale. If apples to apples, if all things equal, Then we say, okay, all of us now, we are one. Let's seek out the interests of our nations on behalf of our own people. I am 100% for it. I can literally advocate it for it. But if you are going to seek the interest of your nation at the expense of enslaving another nation or at the expense of subduing another nation, that is not acceptable. Remember, all the nations that we have, especially the so-called advanced nation today, are products of slavery. They had to fight against slavery. They had to fight for independence. They know what it is to be a slave and to be treated as a slave. So why is it, if they fully understand that and they have fought against that, why are they going to actually subjugate the same conditions that they have fought against? That's what I'm against today. Otherwise, I am 100% for nations working together for the best interest of the people. Because a lot of the situation we have today are going to actually require that all of us will work together as nations. There is a movie, what was that name? What was that movie that Bruce Willis played in? I think like a meteor, those big rocks that comes from, from up in the sky. So was headed towards Earth. Yeah, I think it was a meteor. And they actually had to figure out a way to bring together all the smart people to figure out how they were going to actually fight against the meteor that was headed towards Earth. The United States alone could not do it. The Chinese themselves, they could not do it. The Russians themselves could not do it. Of course, the United Kingdom themselves, or French, they couldn't do it, or German. So they had all to come together. So they went and sought the best of the best from every nation. And then they collaborated together. So my question is, as soon as you realize that, hey, you are not enough for your survival, why is it easy for you to make a split-of-second decision that, hey, I actually need the rest of y'all? But if you're not in that situation of life and death, you want to actually squeeze somebody else's blood for your own fatness. Such is what's happening today with a lot of African nations. And it's very abhorring to see that the so-called local leaders are trapped into the schemes of these nations at the expense of these innocent people who will never know what they have signed, how they have signed it, and any liabilities whatsoever. To make matters worse, some of these agreements are hidden agreements that you will never get to see. They can call them top secret, classified, need to know basis agreements, and are all signed on behalf of you, the people. So you tell me, if I sign a top secret classified document on your behalf, but you have no knowledge of what's in that agreement, come on. Who exactly am I working for? Am I working for you, or am I working for me? Guys, I'm going to have to stop it there, because there's so much to be said about the constitutions, the law and policies that are being implemented on the African continent on behalf of the African people. But these laws have absolutely zero interest of you, the people. You have an obligation to actually go back in the books, scrutinize every single one of them, study them carefully, make sure that your intentions, make sure that your desires are actually being looked after. And if they aren't, do what you gotta do to make the changes accordingly. Because the failure to do that is the consent to allow that whatever nation that's taking over you to become an extension of you. No, you actually become an extension of that nation to extend itself to you, to extend its policy to you at the expense of you losing your own legal rights, because you will have none. I know to some of you this may sound like mumbo jumbo, but please take some time and study, take some time and read what's happening. Everything that you see that's under the sun is not new. Everything that you have in your local policies, in your local laws, even in your own constitution, it's not new. You just might not be aware of it, but it's there, it's hidden. So do it right by your own people. If you claim to be a patriot, do it right by your own nation. Strike good deals, strike good agreements that have the benefit for you and your nation first and foremost. And of course, look after the interests of your host nations, or the nations that you are actually having a good relationship with. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to relationships. If you strike good deals that work for all of us, we all benefit. But if you strike a deal that oppresses me, and it oppresses my family, and it oppresses my community, and it also goes as further as oppressing the entire nation, that's treason, guys. That is treason to any single one of you who's going to sign or advocate for those laws, be it a constitution, be it local laws, or even a policy. And you ought to go to jail for a long time. That's where I stand with that. So I will end it there. I want to give you a huge thanks, as always, for the opportunity to listen to what we got, to listen to so much that we have to say. I noticed that today we didn't even say welcome to Zoom and all of that. It is something that you guys have become aware of, and most of you are yet a little bit warm as to how to come into Zoom, because you are afraid of the conversation, that oftentimes you don't want to be seen making a comment. Guys, it's up to you. We beg no one. We beg no one to speak on your behalf. Remember, this is your life, same way it's my life. I'm not just risking my life. I'm actually risking everything if I don't say, if I don't do this. I'd rather live a full life as it was godly given to me than just living like a slave and say, I am grateful that I could wake another day. So with that in mind, guys, feel free to leave us a feedback or feedbacks, as always. Come to our website, AfriDominion.com or www.AfriDominion.com. Be sure to leave a message. Our email is info@AfriDominion.com. And whatever it is that's on your mind, do share with us. You are free to also use our phone numbers, direct instant messengers and all of that. We will be able to read that. We will be able to respond to that as well. But one thing that I would love for you to take away with this is be true to yourselves, guys. Be true to yourselves. A lot of you may not see the importance of actually standing up for yourselves. But there will become a time when the opportunity to stand up for you will no longer be there. Because what you forfeit runs away from you. Members started saying that always opportunity are gravitate towards good managers. Resources, they are actively looking and seeking for good managers. It goes along with all of this that we are saying. So guys, we are glad. I'm so glad for the opportunity to serve. I'm so glad for the opportunity to come forward to you guys. And until next time, be a part of the change, guys. Be the change that you want to see in your lives. Be the change that you want to see in your community, in your family, even in your nation. Until next time, I am Freeman Singirankabo here at Afri Dominion. May God be with you guys. Be well and stay true to yourselves, and apologize to no one for being you and for representing you as a people, because it is worthy to do that today, tomorrow, and forever. Peace for now.